I think every kid should go to work in high school. I think it's a shame where they're at today because we don't have a good young workforce. It's very difficult to have a good young workforce, and you need a young workforce because you need the cost of young employees to help your financial statement.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, we need entry-level people who want to work hard. We don't have to pay them the premium dollars, and I don't mean bad by that. It's just that let's teach them how to own their own business and be in management. But they're not there.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have Scott Fischer on the program. Scott has done so much locally here in Southwest Florida. Entrepreneurship, philanthropy. He's also used to be a professional dirt bike rider.
Motocross and enduro and hare scrambles.
That's insane. He's owned Harley-Davidsons all up and down the coast here. And Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is awesome.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So we were just kind of talking. You were one of these people, we talk to entrepreneurs all the time that turn their passion into their life's work.
Yep.
Talk to me about that process.
Well, I will tell you that my passion for off-road motorcycles began as a 5 or 6 year old when, as a kid, my parents didn't really have a lot of money. My father was an automobile mechanic, owned a place called Fischer's Garage. I can remember it as clear as can be because I went there every Saturday to sweep the floors and get in the way. But, at Christmas, my father would buy used go-karts or used mini bikes and rebuild them. And that was our gifts. My brother was a few years older than I. And that began our interest in riding toys, riding motor vehicle toys. And, that took me very quickly into, the interest in riding off-road. And that off-road riding got me into really competing in enduros. And for those that don't know what enduros are, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. And in Southern Ohio, you run enduros. They're 50 to 250 miles in one day. And you run across the Southern Ohio landscape. And it didn't matter whether it rained or shined. You had your ability to compete against your competitors was exciting. But that led into motocross, and I had some rides with Honda and some other people that made it possible for me to do a lot more competitive riding. And in wintertime, we rode hare scrambles. But when we talk about careers, I started working in a motorcycle store when I was 15 years old. And, I realized real quickly that I'm going to make my passion my career. And things really changed because of timing and luck and so forth. But it was my passion. It still is my passion. There's nothing I'd rather do today, if I could, than to get on a dirt bike and go ride off-road. There's nothing I would rather do. And I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of fun stuff. I supplement that right now, to be honest with you. I ride a mountain bike, an e-mountain bike. And I'm totally into riding the e-mountain bike because it's the closest thing that I can recall to riding off-road.
What's keeping you off the dirt bikes and the motorcycles nowadays?
Well, I've had 5 joint replacements. I've got 2 new knees. I got 2 new hips. I got 1 shoulder. So what keeps me off of it is I need to stay off of it.
Yeah.
I can't take a big tumble. You have those things replaced. It's much more difficult the second time. And there's a lot of things. I love to play golf, and I love boating. I love riding off-road and hiking. I love riding a mountain bike off-road. And I will tell you, the off-road mountain biking now is spectacular. I mean, we're riding bikes that got Fox shocks on them. I mean, those are things that we had on our dirt bikes, and they're spectacular. So, I'm getting what I want out of it, and good exercise at the same time.
So talk to me about you're working in a motorcycle shop, working on this stuff. How did you learn the entrepreneurial aspect of, because we were talking about it off show, where you see a lot of these people that own different Harleys or different motorcycle dealerships, and they're passionate about it, but they don't understand how to run the business of it. How did you cut your teeth in entrepreneurship? Well,
look, I think the reality of it is that as a kid, I worked hard. I was committed to the jobs that I had. And, it's just like, when you read books like John Maxwell, they talk about, the levels of leadership. Look, you get a job And quite frankly, to the consumer, you're a leader because you unlock the front door and let them in. I mean, that's the first level of leadership. But it's when young employees really work hard to help the company they work for, the people they work with, that they grow in their levels of leadership. And that's what gets owners or managers attracted to their staff, is when they're willing to take the extra effort, work hard, make things better for the environment, do things that they're not asked to be done. So my opportunity to grow in business was great, to go into parts management and service management and sales management, and ultimately be a general manager of a store in Columbus, Ohio. And I was young. I was in my early 20s as a general manager of a Honda store, and we were the #1 Honda dealer in the whole Eastern United States.
Wow.
Won trips everywhere, selling 3-wheelers. Back then we sold 3-wheelers, not 4-wheelers. And when it comes to the real growth, when I had the great opportunity of being recruited to come to Florida to manage a Kawasaki Harley-Davidson dealership in Fort Myers. And when I came down here, honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was passionate about my product. I was involved with a sales group that helped me really learn the sales in the business. But real entrepreneurial, big picture stuff, banking, real estate, any of that stuff that all becomes part of your job, I didn't know anything about. It was all learning as you went. So when I came down here, look, I came from a Honda dealership, and a Honda dealership in '87 was the best product in the industry. Kawasaki was the worst product in my mind that you could have, and I wouldn't take a Harley on trade. I mean, it was unbelievable. So I'd ask the people, I said, what am I going to do with Harley? And how can I get Kawasaki to be a great product? That was my thought process. But little did I know, in a very short period of time of relocating here, that Harley was completely the brand, without a question of doubt. I mean, in 30 days, I had moved to being really focused on the Harley brand, because I could see the customer was so in tune to the brand. We never had that with the other brands. All the other brands are great products. I love all the other products, but they didn't have the customer base. So you ask how do you really grow as an entrepreneur? What I learned right away was to invest in professional service. I really reached out to learn about business. I hired a coach. I hired sales training companies. We did the things. We spent money really in our industry that most people didn't do. We really spent money to build health in our organization. Health is really about building a team and having the resources to grow and be greater.
So, like we were talking a little bit earlier, for a lot of our audiences, the younger entrepreneur wants to start a business, wants to get going, but they might not be able to afford the coaching, the mentor, when they're especially nowadays charging these $5,000 a month price tags, this and that. How do you think people, like a younger person that wants to get into business, can gain this experience without having to try to cough up $5,000 or some guy they don't even know?
Well, first of all, today it's a lot different than it was when I was there. Today, access to that is pretty substantial. I mean, quite frankly, the digital technology and the whole ability to go on YouTube or whatever and learn is unbelievable. I mean, I'm glad that I don't have to go there right now, because I wouldn't want that level of research that is available. But what I always tell people is that I had a great coach. I hired a personal coach, and then I hired a business coach. But what my coaches taught me was surround yourself with smart people. I mean, I have an accountant. I mean, everyone in business, or quite frankly, if they have a job, they probably take their taxes to an accountant. People have attorneys, people have doctors, people have all these professional people around them, and these professional people around them have a great deal of experience to share. And if you're a customer of theirs, they should share their experience. They should want to mentor their customers. And most people are afraid to ask. I would tell you that today I still have at least twice a year, I have a meeting with my financial advisor, my accountant, my attorney, and my coach, and we do it regularly, and we just share what we're doing. And quite frankly, over the years, that development has actually been a great development for them as well. They actually talk about the fact that they really learn a lot of just about business through these kind of sessions. And I expect not to pay for those kind of sessions with those individuals. That doesn't mean that everybody can get that for free. I probably spend a lot of money with those particular professional advisors, so they feel indebted to do that. But they don't any longer. They look forward to those sessions. So
when you I think for a majority of people, when you think motorcycles, like you think Harley, like it's the brand association. Like Harley is, for me at least too. So how do you think Harley has separated themselves in this sphere to be like the go-to from a branding perspective? When you think motorcycle, it's Harley.
Well, I don't anymore. I don't think of it just as Harley. I would tell you that I went through a phase in my life where I didn't even think of Harley. And then Harley became a brand that I knew was going to be a product that I would be able to really grow and be great with. But today, as an example, I ride a couple of KTMs. I have dual sport KTMs that I ride up in North Carolina, and so I love the other brands. I just got back from MotoGP in Texas, and it was a phenomenal experience to see all the other brands besides Harley race on a racetrack. But to answer your question, what Harley did so great and what dealers need to continue to do so great, and in my opinion, Harley has really lost focus on this right now, currently, is that they knew that you have to create activities for your customers. Dealers have to spend the time and money to create activities, because the more activity we keep our customers active, participating in, the more they're going to buy. And with Harley, we had a showroom full of products. We had a showroom full of accessories. We had a showroom full of clothing. And, you could bring your friends and families in, but the events, doing events, Harley had major national events. They still have a lot of national events. Dealers had major bike nights and events, at their stores. Keep the customers active, participate with them. I would tell you that today, people ask me all the time, do you ride? I go, I ride in North Carolina a lot, but I don't ride in Fort Myers at all. But I rode in Fort Myers forever because I had customers here, and you rode with your customers. And I can tell you that as an owner of the Harley store, if you ride with your customers, it's worth unbelievable value because your customers want to participate with the owners.
Mike McMurray, when you were on his podcast, he talked about the events that you guys would throw at your dealership, and just the scale of what you would do. And I think most entrepreneurs, they look at the way to grow businesses through like digital marketing and through all these like new school ways of scaling. But what you're talking about with events, it's like, it's kind of the go-to. How do you build an event worth showing up for?
Well, I think it probably depends on the business, the market. For us with Harley, we just knew that you had to match the demographic. Harley's demographic was clearly a blue collar worker, baby boomer, primarily. Early in my career, there was a lot of high wealth individuals that bought Harleys because Harley was just the hottest product that you could get your hands on, if you could get your hands on it. But as that time frame changed, it really became that blue collar, that baby boomer customer base. Harley's worked real hard to try and bring younger customers in. They've not done a great job with it because they've never built product to bring young people in. So it's a challenge. But specifically to your point, we would look at the type of events that customers want to participate at. They want to participate, with music. They want to participate with free food. They want to participate with alcohol. And it was something that, quite frankly, we really kept away from for some time because we didn't want the liability. But I will tell you that dealers do participate. They have beer and drinks at their events, and it's very successful. But beyond that, one of the areas that I think we did very successful with was we brought. I learned early on that as an entrepreneur, your community outreach is really important. I don't think people realize that how much the community recognizes when you're involved in community, in supporting community needs, whether it's charity, whatever type of community needs there are. When you get involved, it's amazing how much your customers want to get involved with you. And at the same time, so do your employees. So you build this brand inside your market. And it's it's a marketing tool that's so important. You can have sales, you can have discounted prices, you can do all these kind of things, but without the quality of the brand where people want to spend their money and spend time with, you don't have anything. And that's what so many Harley dealers give away. They have such an opportunity to do so much in their community and attract their customers. We did originally one of the greatest things that I can share that we did was the March of Dimes came to us for the March of Dimes, and we participated with March of Dimes. We thought, wow, that's a great idea. We'll get our customers to go on a walk. Well, we learned real quick that what our customers want to do is go on a ride. Seriously. So we built the Bikers for Babies, and we did an event every year, Bikers for Babies. That event would start down here in Naples. I can't remember the name of the park, but a park right down here in Naples, and the ride would go to Fort Myers, and we'd have the sheriffs, the police departments, we'd have everybody involved. Everybody was involved in this event. It was a parade. There would be thousands of bikes. People would go out and raise money to move themselves up in the line. They wanted to be first in line. So we created this great venture, and it raised millions of dollars over the years. Literally, we raised millions of dollars with Bikers for Babies. And we didn't just stop there. We took them. We had events with the hospital, with Lee Memorial, to take them to the NICU. And you just get your customers and your employees so into the purpose, and so there's events and there's community events, but it's really about not overdoing events, but making events the right thing that customers want to be a part of.
The interesting part of your journey that I kind of want to double click on is this idea of when something works, you do it again. So you had a successful dealership, and then you had another successful dealership, and then you had another. And at one time you had 7 dealerships at once.
Yeah.
How did you stay focused in that and not try to reinvent the wheel? Did you ever get stuck in like, oh, I want to do something new now, I want to try something new? And what kept you from like that trap of like looking at something and idolizing something that really just isn't for you in that moment?
Yeah. Well, I think that first of all, you build a great team of leaders. So, I didn't run those stores by myself. Far from that. I had a great team of leaders. I had people that I grew. I can tell you that my COO, her name was Glo Chufi, and she was a Penn State grad. She came to work for me at the Harley store in Fort Myers. She was just out of college, and she was selling hot dogs. Just out of, but she worked in finance and insurance. She worked in the motor clothes department, and then she became my COO. And today she's the COO for the biggest management company in the motorsports industry. As we liquidated off, she went off and found another part of her career. But so there's 2 things that I think are really important. Okay, you have 3 things. You have to surround yourself with smart people. Okay, you have to have a great team. Then you have to really understand the data. Data drives the business. So we really invested in how to manage data. Okay, the data, and every part of your business has got data that wraps on, because you need something to manage. You can manage data consistently across. It doesn't matter whether you're in California, which we were in California, or you're in Florida. Data's the same. In our industry, data's exactly the same. So you have a consistency of information to share and manage. And then you got to create health in the organization. Okay, so the biggest change that happened with us was when we really learned that without creating health in the organization, it's very difficult to grow your business, to scale your business. And we could feel, we could walk into a dealership and we could feel when the health wasn't right. And when we talk about health, health is really about having that real great staff experience, customer experience and employee experience. When it's really generating inside the business, you can feel it. And let's just think about today. Where do you go that you really get that kind of experience? It's difficult. It's the single greatest competitive advantage a company can have, is to create health in an organization. When you have that, you just have an edge over anybody, over any business. And we're not just competing against the other Harley dealer. We're competing against any kind of disposable income that there is. Okay, so you have to put yourself in a position that customers want to belong and spend their money with you. And there was a time when our health was so great that it would shock me how customers would say, "How do you get people to behave like this?" That was the greatest reward I think that I could ever think of, was when a customer would say, I don't understand how you get your staff to behave like this.
So we're our beginning of year 4 in the business. And something we've been talking about a lot lately is we've been blessed with the opportunities that have been put in front of us and the growth we've seen over 4 years. But as we continue to scale, what it comes with is more problems, bigger problems. And sometimes it feels like you just wake up, get kicked in the teeth, and then try to figure out a way to deal with it. In your experience, as you've scaled your business and as you've grown, how is that something, like, how have you dealt with this in from a mental standpoint? Like you're growing and it's great. Like everything's awesome. You every few months, like you're growing. But what comes with that is just issues and problems. And quite honestly, just more targets on your back, more competitors and things like that. How did you just navigate that, especially in the beginning of starting this?
Well, I think that most companies, most businesses really lack real strategic plans and strategy. And, when you really put together real strategic plans, you're able to go in and modify plans. You're able to go in and see where things go wrong, look, I can tell you, I came here in 87. So I kind of talk about my journey started in 87, even though I was a dealer, a general manager prior to that. I started in 87 down here. A lot of things, it wasn't all great. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of challenges. Just market challenges. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was times, that the market got very tough and things were difficult.
Especially in disposable income, like a disposable income category.
That's right. So, I think that the big difference for us is a team's really aligned around a strategic plan. The ability to communicate and share what that plan is so important. And it's not about coming up with a plan, sticking it on the wall, and it being some motto. It's something that you talk about every day. You talk about in your meetings. You share it. And by all means, you have to share it with the staff. You don't share it to an exact detail. You may not share, complete profit lines or whatever all the way to the very front line. But frontline people have to understand what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't, you know what they do? They make it up. Mm. They lie. Okay? They spread lies. We always say, let's make sure, what are we going to communicate today? Because we want to spread true rumors. We want our staff to know what we've been talking about in here. It's so important to make sure that frontline employees have an understanding and support what management's working on. When you share it, they're not afraid of it. Mm-hmm. So I would just tell you that a few of those very simple items are so critical to keeping health in an organization, because when you have this customer experience that's just happening like this, it just pushes I'm sorry, when you have this unbelievable employee engagement that's really, really tuned in, customer experience just goes up dramatically, even in down times. You know, in our toughest times, you know, I mean, I can recall when we made the most money on the product we sold, which was Harley. We had 4 Harley stores and we had 5 or 6 non-Harley stores, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki stores. The market was tanking hard. Harley was the only brand that still had a retail finance company. Okay, 95% of our customers finance their motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
All the other brands quit financing during this time frame. Harley still was. Because I had a team that was really aligned together, we sit down, a strategic plan, had our coaches there, personal coach and business coach. We made the decision that the only way we could survive was to close all 5 metric stores, non-Harley stores, and put all of our effort into Harley because Harley was still generating income. All the income that Harley was generating was getting eaten up in this time frame, and we didn't have time to wait. This happened in September, and by the end of the year, all 5 stores and 500 employees were let go. So things are tough, but you know what? I had a team that was aligned around that strategy, and you know what? That made us an unbelievable Harley company. That moved us. That was a transition from being a power sports company to being a Harley company, and made a significant difference in our business. We now became very focused on Harley. So, you know, tough things sometimes come out to be great in the end, and it really did at that time. We grew to Huntsville, Alabama, Hickory, North Carolina, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Los Angeles, California. And we could have gone further, but at the time, Harley wouldn't let a dealer have more than 7 dealerships. And we were positioned for it, but we couldn't get any more.
Yeah. How did you deal with that in that time, like mentally, in a frame of, you know, the decision you have to make that's best for your business, but like, how do you stay unattached emotionally to letting go 500 people and like closing, completely changing the business on a decision that you don't even know if it's going to work or not?
Well, I think when you have everything you have invested in it, and you have key people that are very vested with you, you have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
I mean,
So true.
you know, it's tough. I mean, you know, one of the stores we closed was in Columbus, Ohio. It's where I grew up. It was the original store I worked in. You know, and it was truly a landmark store. It was a beautiful operation, but you couldn't sell product. And you know, when the Harley sales were not super strong, but yet cash flowed, and you're eating up all that money to keep those other stores open, you know, the business decision to be profitable and have a great business was you got to unload that product. Yeah. Today, it's a different story. I mean, the non-Harley stores are doing very well today, and Harley stores, quite frankly, are struggling.
I'm interested. So walk me through the liquidation. Walk me through this phase. So you had been from 1987, you said?
Yep.
1987 until when did you liquidate?
Would have been 2007.
Okay, so 2007. So you're looking at 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years of running the same style of business, and you have what every entrepreneur that's listening to this show thinks they want. It's that big payday, you know, quote unquote retirement, whatever you want to. What was that moment like? And then how quickly did you go, I just did this, what's next?
I think that, first of all, there was a survival mindset. I mean, there was a time frame where we knew if we don't do something, we're not going to be here.
2007. I didn't even realize.
Right before the crash.
Right before the crash.
Well, it was right at that time frame.
Wow.
That was the real issue. It was right then. And so, you know, it was like something, we have to do something, or else we're not going to survive in this marketplace. And so the team rallies together, and quite frankly, you get very motivated and excited about where you can get to, but there's a massive job to do to get there. I mean, to close, we own the real estate in those stores. So we carried the real estate for years after that. But, you have this time frame where you have to move, you have to, we became executioners at that time. There's a lot of work to do. I mean, to close dealerships, you have to work with the manufacturers. You have banking issues. You have real estate issues, inventory issues, customer issues. I mean, it's a massive job. So people get focused on the process. How do you get to we're going to open a new business. It's going to be this Harley only business. How do we get there? We got to get through this process, do it. So I can only tell you my experience. My experience was that our team got very motivated to get to a new starting line, but there was a great plan in place to get there. And that's why I would talk about surrounding yourself with the right people, really investing in those people so that they're vested, they want to be a part of it. There's an end result for them is so important. So I can just tell you that those time frames weren't dreadful time frames. They were, we were young. It was education. It was very entrepreneurial. Look, this is what you got to do. I could have never done it though without professional advice. Never done it. We brought professional people in that really brought the focus to these are the things you have to do.
So talk about the next phase of once you sold the 5 stores in 2007 to now being in a new phase of your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
When did you start to think about like what you wanted to do next?
What I wanted, so when we went through the process there with the liquidation of those stores, I can tell you that I was in the Fort Myers dealership, which was on across from Edison Mall on Cleveland Avenue. Yeah, Cleveland Avenue. And my COO at the time, or COO or general manager at the time, she was. We were both really struggling, and the reason why we were struggling was because business was really booming. We were really making a lot of money. Our customers didn't like us, and our employees didn't like us. We had turnover employees, and it was just a challenge. I mean, it was a challenge because that really hurt. When customers don't like you and employees aren't happy, it really hurts. And I recall so vividly that she handed me the stack of books and said, "Hey, I was going to North Carolina. I had a cabin in North Carolina, and I'd go up there for a week or 2 weeks or a month, whatever I could do to get away." And these books were from a guy named Patrick Lencioni out of California. He has his book today that people read is called The Advantage, but it was Death by Meeting, The Extraordinary CEO, and there were fables. She goes, "You just need to read these." So she said, "These little books, and I go up and I read these books and I'm thinking, holy shit, how can they be writing these books about us?" But the reality is, it's what everyone goes through.
Yeah.
It's what CEOs go through. It's what teams go through. It's the challenges. These fables write these stories about what we go through. And I right then called the company and said, "How do I have a team session and create health in an organization?" And we hired this company out of California. They came and met with us. And that session was the beginning of what I consider really running a great business, because we learned about health and organization. You can be smart, and you can be smart in a business. Companies that are smart have great locations, they have great brands, they have great finance, they have great marketing. But if you don't have health, you don't have anything. Health is about having minimal, politics in a business, great attitude. You turn over bad staff quickly. You have great staff and company. You have health and organization. So, I think that when we use that professional service, that was big money then. It's big money today to do that kind of stuff. Most businesses do not spend money like that. We spent our profits on growing our business with professional help. I think that was the real difference, because we became leaders in our industry, not just from sales brands, but from the manufacturer knew that our stores had a great customer report cards, minimal turnover, high profits. Unfortunately, at the time, the manufacturer just had, the leadership in Harley had this thing that they didn't want dealers to have more than 7 dealerships, and we couldn't grow any further. So that stalled us, and I didn't want to go into having other brands at the time. I just, we were a Harley company. I didn't want other brands. We could have grown, but that created us to then downsize because we built this infrastructure to manage. We would plan to manage 20, 30 dealerships.
Oh, gotcha.
And today you could do that. Today you could, there is the dealer who bought our Fort Myers and Naples store has 20 dealerships. And I know them very well. And they're living in a world of challenge right now as well, because the Harley market's tough right now.
Why would Harley not want you guys to have more than 7? Is it like a market share thing, or?
With Harley, you got leadership, there was a lot of issues over the years. It still is with Harley, from a standpoint of, are dealers making too much money? Should they have to build locations, bigger locations, before they get another store? Just rules that they make up.
Politics.
It's just tough, unfortunately, you're fighting that all the time when you're working with a manufacturer. Harley's not a franchise; it's a contract. So you're contracted. You're contracted to sell in a territory. You buy their product from them. They have some rules around facility guidelines, what you have to build, what they have to look like. So it's good. So I'm not down on Harley. It's great. It's a phenomenal brand. They're just going through a big challenging time right now, like they've gone through multiple times in the 87 to now. That's how long is it? That's 13. That's 38 years. Is that right? 25 and 38 years. So 38 years I've been in the Harley business.
Do you still own dealerships currently? 2
dealerships in New Mexico.
2.
Albuquerque and Santa Fe.
Because my question is more about like the psychology of success and the fact that you spent all of this time. It's your passion. You spent 30 years building this business, and then you sell out for the most part. Did you have like a moment where, like, was it obviously in the beginning, like it was like, this is awesome, the success of it. Was there a moment where like that, what's next of like, what do I do now? Like, do I have all this time back in my hands? How do I spend it? And the other question too, on top of that would be, like, you spent all this time doing this and you finally got it done. And it's like, did it feel like you thought it was going to, like the retirement aspect of it, quote unquote?
I would tell you that, when we were in the position to downsize, to really move off the real leadership team, it was at the end of the big part of our career, and it showed me, especially when we built the new store in Fort Myers, built a flagship store with a concert venue, and we just had
off 75.
Yes,
such a cool store.
Yeah,
right.
Great job with that one.
Yeah. Well, if you and during the time frame when the concert venue was there, it was called Top Rocker Field. I mean, we had major concerts there. It was really unbelievable. But it really showed me, because it was here in my hometown, that there's so much work.
Yeah.
I mean, such substantial amount of work, and the timing then, when dealers were buying, when people were out buying dealerships up, the opportunity to sell was just there. It was just a good timing thing. And it was really, really hard to sell Fort Myers, but on the flip side, it was great selling it, because just the amount of work it takes when it's at home. I could never leave it alone. I could never not be there or leave it alone.
Yeah.
And my reputation in the marketplace was aligned around that store, not around Albuquerque or Huntsville, Alabama, or those places. So it was great. And I always, I would tell you though, that there's some very specific strategies put in place through professional advisors that really helped that decision. And when I was 50 years old, I remember so clearly my estate attorney saying, look, we need a 10-year plan, and you don't have to leave in 10 years. But if you don't have a 10-year plan, you'll never leave. People stay in business too long and they don't understand it. And the 10-year plan made me make decisions in that 10-year time frame that made it really possible to exit even earlier. It was in 7 years. So it made it possible to leave early. So having a professional advisor, having a 10-year plan in place, understanding timing of doing that just made it much simpler to do. And I don't regret any of that. Getting out was great to do. I still have a couple stores, and we're likely to buy a couple more stores again because we're in position to do that. The market's tough. Dealers want out, and I've got people who want in. I've got people who can manage those stores, and we can buy those stores and do what we did before.
That's so cool.
And so you exit, and now you have a lot of time back on your hands.
Yeah.
What was that like? What's next moment for you?
It's hard. It's really hard to not be busy.
Yeah.
It's really hard not to be busy. So I stay really busy. I mean, I'm involved. I got a lot of community stuff I'm involved in.
Mm-hmm.
I stay very involved in community. And, here's an example of staying busy. I really believe in supporting youth programs. Okay. Like Junior Achievement is a program I'm really passionate about. And I'm passionate about it because I went to work as a teenager. I went to work in high school. I think every kid should go to work in high school. I think it's a shame where they're at today because we don't have a good young workforce. It's very difficult to have a good young workforce, and you need a young workforce because you need the cost of young employees to help your financial statement.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we need entry-level people who want to work hard. We don't have to pay them the premium dollars. And I don't mean bad by that. It's just that let's teach them how to own their own business and be in management. But they're not there. I mean, kids aren't going to work in school. They're not thinking like it. Junior Achievement does that. Junior Achievement's about financial literacy, work and career readiness. We're doing great programs right now in Southwest Florida for getting kids into trades. Okay, it's a whole program Junior Achievement's done. So I'm not on the board at Junior Achievement any longer, but I'm as active as I ever was, with the support and help with the CEO of that company. So how do you stay busy? Why do you stay busy? You stay busy because you see that there's a commitment. I believe that entrepreneurs have a commitment to support their community. And, my other big passion is Blessings in a Backpack. I brought that program to Southwest Florida. We now provide 10,000 meals a year to kids that, quite frankly, need food on the weekends. And the CEO of that company, the managing director, is leaving, and the board's left kind of without a leader. So, I'm stepping up and getting involved with the board, not leading, not managing it, not being in control, but just making sure that board stays together and stays focused on the purpose of that, which is, I know we lost our leader and we all want to be sad we lost our leader, but we got all these kids out here we have to take care of. So, I think once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur, you just stay busy all the time, it's just.
I think there's like this fallacy of people aimed at the sipping margaritas on the beach. It's like I'm going to work this hard. I'm going to build this business. I'm going to work so hard and make all this money so that I can do nothing. I can sit on the beach and sip my margaritas. And then for those people that do get there, what you realize is after a week, it's like, this is old, what now? And I think that's with the aim of the retirement, the beach, it's like the shift needs to be in what your aim is. And I think once you get there, you realize that the fulfillment was always in the work and not in the relaxing time.
I think, I have a home in the Bahamas. I have a home in North Carolina. I have a home in Fort Myers. I go, I go sipping drinks on the beach. I mean, I boat in all those places.
Yeah.
When I go to the Bahamas and I take friends with us, I'm still busy there.
Yeah.
I have an 8 o'clock meeting on the phone or 10 o'clock meeting. I mean, I'm still busy, but it doesn't consume my whole time. And I can not have it if I don't want it. So there are a lot of people who, quite frankly, they're educated. They went to school for a specific career, and there's an end game in their career, and their end game is just retirement. They don't want to do nothing else. There's a lot of people like that. So, that's the difference really between, I'm not sure what you really call, when you look at a medical person or whatever, there's a time frame, 60s, 65s when you retire, and they work for the whole time. There's a big difference in that type of career, because that type of career, you generate wages, and you have benefits, maybe 401ks, and they're great and they're fabulous, and you can retire and do what you want. But there's a big difference between that kind of income and equity.
Yeah, man.
Okay, it's a substantial difference. When you build equity in a business and you build equity in your real estate, the wealth is far different than income. So
talk to me about Slipaway. So speaking of staying busy, you are you're taking on a one of a kind project locally here. Yeah. What was the inspiration for that, and what's been the process of doing that?
Look, I'd love to take credit for it, but I don't get to take any credit for it. I just take credit on being a part of it now coming together. But my good friend Jeff Myloff from Myloff Abashan Homes in Cape Coral, great company. Gary Abashan was a very key political individual in Southwest Florida, and he's the home builder, and Jeff is the realtor. They had their model center on College Parkway, just as you go over the bridge into Cape Coral on the right hand side. They had their model center on the water, and it had passed its time. So the houses were old, and they weren't going to rebuild the houses, but they needed to tear them down. And so the real estate's there, and there was a company that wanted to do this tiki hut deal there that they were going to sell the real estate to, or the people that own the real estate were going to sell to them. And that company at the last minute backed out of the deal. And Jeff called me. I never forget. He called me on a Sunday morning and said, "Hey, look at this. I'm going to send you over this email. Open this up, and we're looking at this tiki hut. It was a food truck type park." And said, "This is a really cool deal. I think we should buy this real estate and do it." And five partners came together: Jeff and his partner Gary and myself, and then a couple of people from Michigan that Gary and Jeff knew. We sat down and said, "Okay, let's rebuild this." So they had a tiki hut deal, and we really want to do something quite a bit greater than that. So it turned in what's called Slipaway. Slipaway is going to have 30 boat slips, going to have a fuel dock with multi-fuel stations. It's going to have a ship store. It'll have a main pavilion that will hold 275 people, a bar with 45 stools around it, and 5 separate pavilions, and music every day. Music every day of the year except for Christmas. So 364 days a year. And there's a band stage and everything. So it'll be a really phenomenal place. It's there's a lot of food truck interest everywhere. It's a hot product. We've put some things in place that I think are going to be greater for the food truck business. One, we've got a really great venue for people to eat at. The food trucks are going to work in a little different environment where they're going to work off of the QR codes. So you can go sit at a seat, QR code your food orders, have your food delivered to your seat, instead of the challenge with food trucks is standing in line, waiting for your food to get done, waiting for the guy to call your order. So we've worked really hard on fixing those things. We won't know if we have them fixed until we're open, okay, which will probably be at the end of May or 1st of June. It's going to be great because we're going to have the 4th of July event on Cape Coral Bridge. If anybody knows what that is, it's probably the biggest event that happens in Southwest Florida. We'll lead that whole program. But, you know, we've built, you'll see when you go. I mean, it's hard for me to explain to anybody, but when you go there, we've built a really substantial place for people to slip away.
I love that.
I mean, it's not going to be just a bunch of food trucks. Food trucks are going to be, you know, we had 150 applications for food trucks, and there'll be 10 food trucks there. All our food trucks will have their own office on site. They'll have the ability to have a freezer to have food. So these are all things, some remedies for food truck operators. You know, they don't have a place to go. They don't have a place to store any food. Their fuel has to be brought in all the time. We're going to have fuel. They'll have fuel piped in on site. So we're making them as permanent as we hope they'll be. We hope that they're good. But with the technology that we're going to be able to measure their performance, their food quality. So there's going to be a big focus on us to make sure they're doing a good job timing, quality, and pricing.
That's amazing. Scott, thank you so much. This is such a valuable conversation. And I seriously commend you for your commitment to entrepreneurship and helping people. Obviously, this is a huge help for you to come on our show, but I really appreciate your time coming on.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to like, subscribe, share this with somebody that you think will enjoy it. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.